You have to see this because you will have the exact same reaction. Wait till you hear what the Aotearoa Liberation League, otherwise known as a couple of delusional Marxists, have to say on the whole prison abolitionist thing. This takes delusional to a whole nother level.
The criticism is what do you do if you closed all prisons and police tomorrow, with
tomorrow.
The thing with abolitionist philosophy is that we believe in working our way towards that target consensually as a society. But the thing is that it needs to be set as a target, in our view. So we want to abolish prisons. Okay, well, what does that require? Then it's working through all of those steps to do that. And so, you're talking about the Christchurch shooter, for example. Firstly, in this world where prisons are abolished, we wouldn't have people like that because we would have this completely decolonized society where hate is not farmed in the way that it is, where it's not mainstreamed in the way that it is. I mean, look at the President of the United States, for goodness sakes, and just look at the genocide of Gaza. Just look at mainstream narratives around that genocide. Hate is super mainstreamed in our society. I wouldn't be surprised if we had more terrorist attacks against otherized communities, against Muslims, against people like myself, in fact, against Māori, because of this government and the way that they're normalizing such hatred. So firstly, in this society, you're highly unlikely to have that kind of violence express itself in that way. But of course, you will always have people who have issues. Always, always, always. And so in the scenarios where we have people who do commit violent acts against others, in a world where we have abolished prisons, what do we do with those people? I'm more than comfortable with going there. I think we should absolutely remove them from the ability to harm others. No question about that. If someone is a harm to themselves or others, we need to stop that. But we need to do it with compassion, regardless of how horrific this person is. We need to do it with compassion because we believe in upholding the dignity of each and every single human being. If we need to separate them from society, look at some Scandinavian models. Look at putting them in really beautiful, flourishing households where they have chores, where they have to do gardening, where they're, embracing in rituals with each other. We can come up with our own models here. We have Te Ao Māori to lean on. And Te Ao Māori does have solutions. They do have examples. They're crying out for government funding. So in terms of us being prison abolitionists, all we're really saying is that we want that funding to start going there. We want those programs to begin right now. We want us to start those alternatives today, immediately.
This is why people are called radicals, right? Because what they're saying is just utterly insane. Her argument is that, well, we wouldn't need prisons and we wouldn't have the problem of a Brent and Tarrant because, well, a society without prisons would exist in a way where we've decolonized everything, there's no hatred, and so we just wouldn't need a prison for someone like that because they simply wouldn't exist. Said no one in human history ever. Till now. No society in the history of humanity has ever had that luxury. The problem is knowing her views on other issues, such as economics, we know for a fact hatred is going to be the least of that society's issue, right? That's going to be the least of their problems. A society that, in her vision, would be very much one filled with hatred of government, most likely, and hatred of those who are not contributing to the greater good, otherwise known as the Marxist utopia. But what I found most jarring is that, oh look, I can appreciate and foresee that on the off chance that someone has some issues, that we have prisons. So it's like, oh, so we want to abolish prisons, but also if someone does something really horrific, then we should have prisons. And we should, I don't know, use a Scandinavian model or something. Here's an idea. How about we don't abolish prisons and maybe we do adopt a Scandinavian model? I've discussed this on the channel before, that much of the issue with our system is less to do with the opportunities of rehabilitation and reintegration and more with the willingness of those in prison to actually engage with those opportunities. But even then, I do see some merit to the Scandinavian model. But the other thing with the Scandinavian model is they have a very different society with a very different culture. The people in there have a very different ethnicity. And you can pretend all you like that ethnicity has no relevance to the impact or the effectiveness of justice models, but you'd be wrong, and you know you're wrong. Scandinavia is a very different place. Scandinavians are very different people. Scandinavians are what they are. They have a particular type of attitude, a particular type of ingrained cultural grounding, which enables them to do very well. There is a very real reason why immigrants from different nations have different rates of success in the country that they arrive in. All of these things need to be factored into what will work. And I can tell you right now, prison abolitionism isn't going to be the solution here. The Scandinavian model isn't going to be this perfect model that works. What we currently have actually has the ability to rehabilitate. Just unfortunately, not enough people are taking the opportunity when inside to benefit themselves and put them on a pathway back to becoming a functioning member of society. I simply can't get my head around this whole decolonizing will solve the hatred problem. Because this whole idea of decolonizing is rooted in demonizing people for being the descendants of a particular group of people, for living a particular way, for standing up for a certain set of beliefs and ideals. Decolonizing, in her view, would also involve the dismantling of capitalist structures, because capitalism is an inherently colonial invention, or at least something that's been brought here by colonists, and so in order to have a decolonized society, we would need to get rid of that. So good luck to anyone who believes in this decolonized society with no prisons, where hatred doesn't exist, where it's clearly a utopia, where only the odd person here and there has issues that need to be addressed, and in those instances we're going to have this beautiful state-of-the-art 5-star facility where you do housework, gardening, stuff like this. You know, things that some might mistake for, I don't know, like living in the real world.